spite of all our communication technology, no invention is as effective as the sound of the human voice. When we hear the human voice, we instinctively want to listen in the hopes of understanding it, even when the speaker is searching for the right words to say. That's because the human voice resonates differently from everything else in the world. This is the Unmistakable Creative Podcast. Listen in on candid conversations with creative entrepreneurs and insanely interesting people.
One in two women wear the wrong foundation. Which one are you? Get on the better-looking side of those odds with Il Makiage. Using AI, Il Makiage virtually shade matches you to the perfect foundation. Their foundation has over 50,000 five-star reviews thanks to its luxe lightweight formula. And with 50 shades, there's a flawless finish for everyone. Take the Power Match quiz to find yours at ilmakiage.com/quiz. That's ILMAKIAGE.com/quiz.
In this episode of The Unmistakable Creative, I speak with Vinnie Tortorich, America's angriest trainer whose radically honest approach to fitness has resulted in clients that include Hollywood celebrities, captains of industry, Ironman triathletes, and many others. Well, Vinnie, welcome to The Unmistakable Creative.
Thanks, man. It's good to be here.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's interesting. I mean, I came across your story because of, somebody who works with you, and he said, this is a guy you should talk to. You got the label the world's angriest trainer, which I thought was I was so intrigued by that and so curious. I thought, okay, you know what? I have to talk to this guy. It sounds like a fascinating story. So tell us a bit about your background and, your story and how that has led to you becoming the world's angriest trainer.
Well, I'm glad you called me the world's angriest trainer because it's America's angriest trainer. Now, you see, your audience will never forget that now that you did that, and I had to say that back to you in a different way. That's usually the way things work, right? When you can't remember someone's name and you have to embarrassingly ask them again, and then you never forget that person's name for the rest of your life.
Well, hey, I mean, world's angriest or America's angriest, I think both of those are pretty good, solid, unmistakable labels, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, but I just want people to be able to find me on iTunes.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair ugh. My mistake.
So please do not listen to the world's angriest trainer. Listen to America's angriest trainer, and you'll be just fine. Okay, good night, everyone. I gotta. So, what was your question anyway? What were you asking?
I mean, how did you become America's angriest trainer? I mean, what's your story that leads up to this label?
Yeah, it's funny. I've been doing this business. I've been in the fitness business for 31 or 32 years now. And literally when I started, there were no trainers in America. There was like me and Jake and, maybe one or two other guys that were doing this. So you're actually talking to one of the first guys.
Wow.
And along the way, everybody seemed to have an agenda. Everybody wanted to be something else. Jake didn't want to be a trainer. He wanted to just hawk a ton of products and get rich, and that's what he did. And that's, a lot of these, you would turn on a television, and you would see this product and that product, and you would see another, bleach blonde with fake boobs telling you to do this aerobic tape or that aerobic video or use this product or that product or what have you. And I think I was the only guy that was in the game because I really like working with people and changing their lives. And, every time, I'm in Hollywood. So people would look at me and go, well, he's pretty good looking and he's got a great body on him and he can walk and talk and chew gum. And all these infomercial companies would call me in to do these, to hook me to products. And I would look at the products and go, yeah, it won't work. I won't do it. And I became the difficult guy because I wouldn't lie to people on television. That made me difficult. The fact that they were going to sell you something that didn't work, they were okay with that. And they would always say to me, hey, baby, come on, baby, you'll make $1 million. You'll make 500,000 overnight. You'll make this, you'll make that. We're selling sizzle. We're not selling steaks. And that's where my anger came from. I'm not angry at people. I'm not a Jillian Michaels type. I I won't get on the, in front of people and yell at them and tell overweight people you're fat. They already know that. They don't need to hear someone yelling at them, telling them they're fat.
Uh-huh.
They've figured that one out, but quite frankly, on their own. Because as I can tell, just because you might be overweight doesn't mean you're dumb. I've worked with a lot of CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. These people are fat too, So my anger is not at people who are overweight or who are out of shape. I'm angry at the industry that keeps selling them lies. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, that was a long answer to a very short question.
No, I mean, that's a perfect answer. I love answers like this because it gives me more questions to ask. I mean, I think that you bring up something really interesting, right? Is that this sort of ethical conflict that you're faced with. And I think in many cases, that ethical conflict could really lead to the difference between putting food on the table or being, the starving artist. And I'm curious, when people are torn like that, I mean, what advice do you have for them?
As far as, being, you mean from the trainer end of it? Because
I mean, in general, like whether you're a trainer or whether you're a creative, I mean, there's definitely opportunities, I think, to sell out. Like, for example, I mean, I could have a publisher come and say, I self-published a book. I could have a publisher come and say, hey, we'll pay you X amount of dollars. But they as part of it, they say, we're also going to change the book dramatically.
Well, we'll get to my book in a minute, and that really happened to me. And because I didn't take their deal, I ended up winning in a big way, financially and spiritually. God, I didn't know those two could even be used in the same sentence, but there you have it. In my career, I've been lucky because, I work with, Hollywood types. I work with actors and actresses who have to look a certain way for a movie. And the only reason I get hired is because I don't lie. When someone needs to beef up for a movie or get really thin for a movie or a TV show or what have you, these people have millions of dollars on the line. They don't care how the sausage is packed. They just need it packed. And I get called in and they go, hey, I'm all yours. You're supposed to be the guy. I'm all yours. So I never had to worry about putting food on my table because, as I've always said, if you do good work, you don't have to lie to people. And because there was an entire industry that was waiting for me to come in and help them, I didn't have to worry about, selling some protein powder to some housewife in the valley in order to put food on my table. Mm-hmm. Not that there's anything wrong with being a housewife in the valley, but, we all know they like to take a lot of protein powder, or at least in my mind. But yeah, when you talk about something like the book, once I penned Fitness Confidential, we went out, my agent took it to the top 22 publishers. And I had never seen notes like this come back from a publisher before, but every one of them had some sort of visceral reaction to what I'd written. Most of them said that if I put it out, they would sue me because they have the Jillian Michaelses of the world who they were trying to sell. And I was telling people, these people are full of crap. Yet no one has sued me to date. Maybe when I check my mail later today, I might be sued. I don't know. But a couple of the companies, some of the bigger companies came back and said, hey, you have 2 books here, and we will give you a 2-book deal. We want you to first give us a sizzle book, and then if you want to come back with the steak, we'll let you do that. Mm-hmm. But just give us, we want you to, we want to get a razzmatazz book. We want 10 pounds in 10 days. We want great abs in 5 days. We want how you get your butt like a bowling ball in 5 minutes. And all these different, all the stuff. They wanted me to do what I would consider an extended magazine article. And I wasn't about to do that. So Dean Laurie, who's a Hollywood producer, director, right now his show on television is The Crazy Ones. He brought Robin Williams back to television. We wrote Fitness Confidential together. And we both looked at each other and said, you know what? We don't really need their money. We don't need the Simon & Schusters of the world to cut us a check. We're going to just take some of our own money. We're going to make a really good self-published book. And when I say really, really good, I mean a great book. And what we did was we went right to their editors and hired these people to work at night. to properly edit my book. We went to these companies that are able to format your book for every electronic that's on earth, the same way the big companies do. Mm-hmm. So you could get my book on Nook and Kindle and, you name it, whatever electronic is out there. I also went to Audible and cut a deal with Audible and sat there and read my own book, which they always say the author should not read their book, but I already had a presence on, podcasting. I had 300,000 people listening to me at that point per month. So people wanted to hear my voice on it. And when you pull all of that together, you can create a real product that people are going to want. And because we did that, we went past what we would have made in the second month, we went past what they were looking to write us a check for, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. But it's not even about the money. It's about putting a book out there that tells the truth. And that's what we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I think this is obviously lots of lessons here in self-publishing, so many of which are at all of our fingertips today. But, there's something you said earlier that I want to dig deeper into and spend a bit more time talking about. And it's this idea of winning both financially and spiritually, because truth be told, I think that people who don't win in both those ways are really unhappy. Like, you have to win. I think if you're not winning spiritually and you're successful financially, you're living a very incongruent life. And I'd really love to hear your thoughts on this. I mean, because I can't imagine that you don't run across people who are torn between those two things, especially given the kinds of people that you work with. I mean, when I watch what comes out of Hollywood, I see a lot of spiritually bankrupt people. I mean, what I see on TMZ is clearly something is wrong with these people.
Yeah, there are a lot of sick people here, and I feel sorry for them a lot of times, because I see people who are running in Starbucks, and next thing you know, this little girl, I can't remember her name now, it's not coming to me, but she had all the funky different kind of wigs on, and she lit her apartment on fire about a month or two ago. She was a child star, and you watch these people just crumble, and TMZ is there just to capitalize on it, and I think it's wrong. It bothers me on so many levels. When Britney Spears was going through it, it was another time it really bothered me. They cared more that this poor woman went and chopped all of her hair off. I mean, can anyone not tell that that's the hugest cry for help in the history of cries for help? Mm-hmm. But when you talk about the spirituality and making money, I call it the stripper trap. You might want to use that for any financial class you might ever want to teach. You can say, well, this guy Vinnie taught me about the stripper trap, and I always use that. I talk to my nephews about the stripper trap, and what it is. I created that term. A stripper goes to a club. And I don't think anyone wakes up in the morning and says they want to be a stripper. They just somehow, through things going wrong, they end up taking their clothes off for hire. And before you know it, if you're really good and you're good looking enough and you take your clothes off enough in the right way, you can make a lot of money. We always hear these strippers are making $600, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a night, right? Once you get into that lifestyle of making that kind of money, how do you tell this girl, listen, you're doing a bad thing. You're doing the wrong thing. You need to stop doing this, and you need to go become a secretary and sit at a desk and make $9 an hour. It's very hard to get out of that life. Once you start making easy money for any reason whatsoever, it's hard to turn around and start doing it correctly. Mm-hmm.
So actually, that actually makes a perfect setup for something else I want to ask you about. You said once you get used to easy money, you realize it's a life that you can't escape because it's easy or you're comfortable. And I think there are people who are also earning money, a hard way, and they're miserable. I mean, we're seeing sort of this collective sort of shift in consciousness as a society in which people are wanting to escape, the life. They're kind of caught between two lives, as my friend Christina Rasmussen likes to say. One is the life they have, and one is the life that could be. And I'm curious. I mean, my guess is that a lot of this has to do with learning how to change our behavior. And my guess is that a lot of the work that you do around fitness has less to do with our physical capabilities and our ability to change our behavior. And I'd love to hear, especially, I mean, because I'm guessing, like you said, you get called in to do something like a movie for a movie star who needs to make rapid changes. I mean, let's talk about behavioral change and making rapid changes in our lives, not just in terms of fitness, but the lessons that you've brought from that world to doing this.
I actually chronicle one of those stories in the book where this young ingenue, the book opens up. It's kind of like the book opens up like a Bond movie where I'm sitting in an office. This is a true story in Hollywood. And there are managers and agents, and there's some people from Disney. And, this is like the early 90s. And I'm sitting there in a pair of shorts and T-shirts. And, all these guys are wearing Brioni suits. And they're all looking at me to save the day. And one of them says, "So we hear you're the quick weight loss expert." And I'm kind of looking at my fingernails going, well, I guess you could say that, that kind of deal. And, I got real cocky. And I got that woman to lose a lot of weight. What I didn't do was teach her how to do it. I didn't teach her how to fish. I just handed her a fish. Mm-hmm. And when the series died and she went away and she had to go back on the road and become a comedian again, she gained all the weight back. And I realized at that point that I wasn't so badass. I failed. I largely failed. And the end of the book finishes on that story. The whole book is stories of, how things happened, and it really, but, she was the beginning of me thinking, I can't just tell these people what to do. I have to create a lifestyle that they can follow. Mm-hmm. Even though they may never call me again, they can do it on their own if they want to after I teach them the lifestyle of getting there. And that was the beginning of that. That was back in I think 92, 91, 92. It was very early on. And, for me, most people, as I said, they don't want to know how the sausage is packed, but I teach them anyway. I make them learn that because it's important. You can't just lose weight for a time period, because as soon as you stop doing whatever you're doing, any type of fad dieting, any type of fad exercise is going to come right back. And that's where I've failed, in the past. And that's something I have to correct for myself.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it sounds to me, like what has to happen in addition to sort of the physical changes is an identity shift. I mean, this is something that I'm finding even in our entrepreneurial endeavors and any creative work. When I see somebody's identity shift, I mean, I had a friend here, Dave Russillo, and we talked, all about him getting unstuck and turning his business around. And it's really interesting to contrast the person he was 2 years ago when I had him here on the show, struggling with a business on the brink of failure, to the person that, he was a few weeks ago on my show. And what I saw was a very different identity that, my business partner, I've talked extensively about circumstances becoming identity. I mean, are there things, when you're teaching people this lifestyle concept, I mean, how do we make that identity shift? Like, what are the day-to-day things in our lives, in every area that we want to change, that we have to do to make these kinds of identity shifts so that, it's not just an external change, the change happens internally too?
To answer that, I want to shift a little bit.
Okay.
I know you want me to answer it, or maybe you were just going in that direction because you thought maybe, but I had to make some changes in my life. I had a lot of things go wrong all at once. In everyone's life, no matter how good it is, things change. Just a quick overlay, back in 07, I was riding my bike one day, and then I got a phone call that told me to get off my bike immediately and go to the doctor's office. And I found out that I only had a few months to live. So there was no more bike riding for me or work or anything else. I had a really bad case of leukemia that had to be taken care of. So I went right into chemotherapy. My life changed overnight. And it took me 6 months. I was out of work. I wasn't training anyone for 6 months. But I didn't care. I had enough money saved up that, I can go and take care of myself and see if I was going to live or die. So once that was over with, as soon as I started working again, the writer's strike happened here in LA. I don't know if you remember that. It was from 08, right before.
I remember it distinctly because season 8 of 24 was delayed, which really pissed me off.
Well, I wasn't a fan of that show, but what pissed me off was that the production on all the shows of all the producers, directors, and writers that hire me on a daily basis, when you saw, they would say on the news, there's a lot of collateral damage.
Uh-huh.
You're looking at collateral damage right here. My business largely went away. So not only did I miss 6 months dealing with cancer, now all of my clients are gone. And before I can gain any clients back, we had 2008 come right down the pipe and knock me for a loop again. And so I had no business. I was barely hanging on to a couple of clients. There were trainers out there, really good trainers. I'm not talking about the mommy trainers that go to the gym, just to make enough money to go buy some Jimmy Choos. I'm talking about guys and women who earn their living doing what we do. This is not chump change money. This is how we pay our bills. This is how we pay our mortgages. This is how we put kids in school. This is what we do. And there were guys who became security guards and tried to get business. I saw one guy working in Starbucks. This guy used to be one of the top trainers in town. He was in Starbucks. I was barely hanging on because of people like my good friend Howie Mandel, who was able to keep me. I had people like that who were able to keep me, and I was just barely able to make enough money just to somehow squeak by using savings and what was coming in. So things were really bad. And, I could have wallowed in that for a long time. I did wallow in it for a while. I'm not superhuman. I mean, when you get knocked around, when you get cancer, and then you get the writer's strike, and then you get the economy, you do go, okay, what the F? Where was I standing when the world changed? What happened? The only thing I knew was I had to do something different. It had to be something different, but it had to be in the only business I knew. And that's when I sat down and started writing a book, by the way, with another guy who lost his gig because he was a TV writer. Mm-hmm. We got together, we sat in a room, and we started writing. We had time on our hands. We could have sat there and wallowed in it. We could have gone and had a chai latte every day and complained about the economy, but we didn't. We sat down and wrote a book. And then after we wrote the book, we decided that one of us, meaning me, would have to go on the internet and figure out how to get popular on the internet. Now, I'm a guy, as you know from last week, who can barely turn on a computer. I really can't. I really still don't know how to use a computer. I'm not proud of that. That's just a fact. And somehow, the guy who can't turn on a computer has one of the biggest hit podcasts on iTunes. And, I have a newsletter that goes out to tens of thousands of people. I have hundreds of thousands that listen to me from around the world. And I have a book that sells like hotcakes. This is all from a guy who can't turn on a computer. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to hear from other people that you can't do things. We can all do things to change our lives. I might have given you a whole different answer than you want.
No, that was beautiful. There's actually, I love that. I'm really glad you told that story because, to me that speaks to a very a molding moment in your life. I've asked other people a question similar to this. You had a painful experience, and I always said if I can find the common thread between the people who come to this show, somehow that painful experience becomes the most transformational experience of their lives. And then I wonder about the people who are just comfortable, humming along. Nothing has thrown them off kilter. Life has just gone according to plan, and they're so unprepared for that. And I kind of wonder how, when you're in that situation, you're almost just sleepwalking through life or living Groundhog Day, how you get out of that because, you don't have leukemia. And then, of course, you've shown an insane amount of resilience in the face of extreme adversity. And I kind of wonder how you build that kind of tolerance for grief and pain in your life.
Yeah, I wish I had an answer for that because you're right. There's so many people just sleepwalking through life and just really not feeling life, And I think, we now today, I have nephews who are, 28, 30 years old. They have college degrees and they claim they can't get good jobs. As a matter of fact, one of those nephews, when I told him I was starting a podcast, actually, I told him I was starting a blog first. So, I put together a website first. And then from that, I was going to do a podcast. And he yelled at me. He goes, "Why would you do that? You barely know how to turn on a computer. Why would you do that? No one gets traction on the internet. The people who got traction were people who got lucky or people who put millions of dollars into it." He had every excuse in the world as to why I would fail. That same nephew is getting ready to put up his own podcast in the next couple of weeks. He's been working on it. And, they need to see someone else do it. That's part of the problem with life. People don't think that they can do things. Mm-hmm. We live in a pretty great time where everybody I know have a device in their hand. They have a smartphone that probably has more power than the first computer that put man on the moon. Right in the palm of their hands. And they're sitting around and all they're doing on it is playing Candy Crush or some other thing I've heard my stepdaughter say. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is that same device can actually help you make a ton of money. If that's what your goal is, instead of using it as a crutch, you can use it as a device to make money. That's what I did.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know about you, but vacuuming is not one of those things that I ever look forward to doing. But as you know, your environment has a huge impact on your creativity. So I still like it to be clean wherever I'm living and working. But now it doesn't have to be something that you deal with. If you're like me and you grew up in the 80s, you probably fantasized about the day when cleaning your house would be like it was for the Jetsons, meaning you don't have to lift a finger. Well, the good news is that we're already kind of living in that future. And the easiest way to make sure your floors are clean every day is with the iRobot Roomba Robot Vacuum. It cleans up after itself. The Clean Base automatic dirt disposal takes convenience to a new level, automatically empties its own bin into an allergen lock bag that holds 60 days of debris and traps 99% of pollen, mold, and dust mites, so you can forget about vacuuming for months at a time. Let the Roomba clean for you instead. It learns your home, finds dirt, and empties itself on its own. It's got powerful cleaning performance made effortless. Remember, if it's not from iRobot, it's not a Roomba. To learn more, go to irobot.com/unmistakable. So a lot of interesting stuff here. I mean, there's no question. I mean, I happen to agree with you. I think the power that is in the palm of our hands these days is unlike anything we've seen in history. And I've always said that the gap between creativity and technology is narrower than it's ever been. I mean, here, I have some questions around sort of this idea of the internet. I mean, you come from a world in which, let me ask you, I mean, very candidly, did having some level of celebrity status, did that help accelerate your progress on the internet? I mean, people knowing that, hey, you're the guy who trains, famous people in Hollywood. Whereas, there are people like me who 5 years ago, blip on the radar. I don't think anybody knew who I was.
No, as a matter of fact, it didn't help me at all because I just name dropped the only celebrity you will ever hear me name drop, Howie. And, it's because Howie and I are friends. I'm not friends with all of my clients. Mm-hmm. It just so happens that Howie and I are good friends. You don't become friends with all of these people. Most of it is just a work relationship. And I'm friends with several of them. But, people see Howie and I out together. They take pictures of us together. Those pictures end up on the internet or what have you. People see us eating in restaurants. So, our relationship, if you will, is outed, even though we're not gay. Not that we're opposed to it. So, people know that we're friends. So I'll mention his name. But other than that, I've made it a practice not to mention anyone I work out with. As a matter of fact, I was on Access Hollywood about 6 or 8 months ago. And they begged me to start mentioning names, backstage. I said, no, it's not going to happen. I'll just leave right now and not do this interview if you guys want me to mention names. And the girl, Kit, who's one of the co-hosts, she and Billy Bush, she asked me backstage, she goes, so tell me who some of your clients are. I said, Kit, is this off the record? And she goes, yeah, it's off the record. So I mentioned a couple of my clients. Well, about 3 weeks later, one of my clients walked in and Kit was doing an interview with her. And she said on stage, "So I hear you work out with Vinnie." And the woman was like, "What? How do you know that?" So even though it was in confidence, she brought it up in an interview. So you can't trust anybody with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I keep it so quiet. I don't think the fact that I've worked with celebrities had anything to do with it, because it wasn't like I was bringing celebrities on the podcast at first.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, we've had a few people come on. Howie's been on, of course. Minnie Driver has been on the show. Andrea Anders. We've had several celebrity types come on the show. Now that the show is a hit, but at the beginning, we had, we weren't running off of any celebrity, anything. I was just a 50-year-old guy with nary a clue as to what a podcast even was.
Mm-hmm.
I literally thought I was speaking into thin air and no one was listening.
Well, let's do this. Let's shift gears a little bit. I want to change the direction of our conversation because I think this makes a perfect time to do that. I want to talk about the business side of some of this. I mean, you started in this industry at a time, like you said, when everybody and their mother wasn't, selling things. And now you go on the internet, and honestly, I mean, I have a lot of skepticism about the fitness industry because of, like you said, I mean, all the quick fixes that I see. Like, the internet is so inundated with questionable information about health and fitness.
Yeah.
And so there's two things that I'm very curious about. You very specifically figured out, okay, this is who I'm going to be. This is what I'm going to be about at a time when things were really different. One, I mean, how did you become sort of the go-to guy for Hollywood? And I mean, how has this sort of proliferation and sort of, abundance of people doing similar things? How has that changed over time, like in your industry? I mean, what are the implications of all of this for all of us listening, regardless of what we're doing?
Are we talking specifically of how I became the trainer I became and how that happened? Because, that's a real entrepreneurship to become a trainer and to get a clientele. So I'll tell that part, and I'll tell maybe the second part too. I did this business in New Orleans before I got here for, several years.
Uh-huh.
And I got here in 1991. And by 1992 or 93, I was here for a year or two, and I was already getting celebrity clients. Here's the strange part. Other trainers would call me and take me. I always knew when someone wanted to take me to Jerry's Deli or to Starbucks wasn't even around back then, or to a coffee shop. There was a place called, they would always invite me to this place. There was Kings Road Cafe. They had great coffee there. And they would, whenever these young trainers would take me there, I knew exactly what they wanted to find out. They wanted to figure out how to get celebrities. They thought I had some kind of inside track to celebrities. And I really didn't. And I would sit there and they would say, okay, I want to be like you and I want to get celebrities. And I would say, okay, do good work. And they would go, yeah. All right, so what's the secret? And I would go, do good work. No, I do good work. Just tell me how to get, celebrity clients so that people can know that I'm really cool and I can get more clients. And I would say, okay, you might have missed it the first 2 times, but you have to do good work and you really need to listen to what I'm saying. The way you're going to get celebrities is by doing good work with the clients you have now. That means if they're a size 12, make them a size 4. That's a bigger billboard than you can hang on Sunset.
Mm-hmm.
Take a size 12, make her a size 4, you will get jobs. Or at least you will get that woman's friends, and that woman's friend might be the producer of Friends, the TV show. And if that woman starts losing weight, then maybe Jennifer Aniston's going to see that woman losing weight, and Jennifer Aniston's people are going to call you. That's the way I did it. For me, it started off kind of innocently. I started working with Playmates at Playboy Corporation.
Sounds like a dream job.
Yeah, well, you would think so, but these girls, they're like trying to herd lizards. What happens is, most people don't know this, but Playboy, once you do a spread, so if you're the Playmate of the month, you not only make the money right then and there, but Playboy has you under contract as an agency for, I don't know if it's 18 months or 2 years. And since most of these girls are from the Midwest, what happens is they get to town, Playboy pays them a lot of money, all of a sudden they're eating and they're gaining weight. And it doesn't look good to have a fat playmate out there. So Playboy had a problem on their hands. And I was working with a woman at Playboy, an exec, who I took from 320 pounds down to 178 pounds. And like I said, she became a big billboard. From there, some people around Playboy said, hey, maybe this guy should work with the Playmates. Playmates are considered D-list celebrities. So now I'm working with Playmates. Well, who do you think date the Playmates? Well, real actors. That's who gets to date the Playmates. Well, I'm with Playmates. Now all of a sudden I'm one step away from working with real actors. I didn't plan that. Mm-hmm. That's how it happened. Those were my steps.
Here's what I love that last part about this idea that, hey, I didn't plan that. That's just how it happened. And I got to tell you, that to me is strangely, that's not an uncommon story here on this show. And somebody had asked me once, could we, if we mapped out the career trajectories of every single person on the Unmistakable Creative, would we be able to find commonalities? And I'm like, yeah, but every single one of them would look really different. Like each, if we map them out, like what they've did, their molding moments, the tipping points, like the things that change them would be so different than all the other ones.
That's true, but I can see where everyone would say, yeah, you can't map it out. I couldn't map out what I did if my life depended on it. Mm-hmm. I really couldn't. But I'll bet if you looked at it really closely, every person has the common germ of, I was working my ass off doing one thing, and that caused something else to happen. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
You're speaking my language. I mean, that's the story of my 1,000-word habit, right? I mean, I basically every single day, no questions asked, showed up at a keyboard and wrote 1,000 words, which became the art of being unmistakable.
Yeah. And I could take it one step further. People ask me, I was just at the New Media Expo in Vegas. And, people kept asking me, it's like, well, you've only been podcasting for 18 months. How did you get so big so fast? How are you selling so many books? How? It's like, well, I work at it every day. Most people do what? How many podcasts do you put up a week, Srini?
Well, 3, and I've done 400 interviews.
Okay.
And I've run this for 5 years.
So you put up 3 interviews a week.
Yeah.
Right? You and me, we do the same thing. I put up 3 podcasts every week. Mm-hmm. Most people, as you know, put up 1 or maybe 2, one a week or maybe 2 every month or, whatever. So, I put up 1 every other day. Mm-hmm. And in between that, I send out a newsletter. In between that, I'm on Twitter. In between that, I'm on Facebook. There's a Facebook group with my name on it that has almost 3,000 members, and I don't even own it. That's what happens when you do good work. You just do good, hard work, and things happen. Uh-huh. Here I am 18 months later, I have, 238, almost 240 podcasts up in 18 months. People want to know how you make things happen. You do it, and you do it a lot.
So let's do this. Let's dig deeper into this, because now you're talking about territory that is personally very near and dear to my heart. Not the tactics and not the mechanics, but the art of it, like the craftsmanship behind it and getting really good at what you do. I mean, you've been talking about this idea of good work. Let's dig deeper into that whole concept, because I think that's actually, I think it's easier said than done. I mean, of course, as a trainer, you probably know you get people who want the quick fix, but I want to talk about, what it is, because to me, you're not just a trainer, you're an artist, because, you produce a podcast that to me automatically, translates you into an artist. And I want to talk about mastering your craft as an artist and doing good work. Like how do we get better? How do we keep getting better? In addition to just doing the work, what is it that distinguishes, those who are amazing from the ones who are not?
Yeah, I think people have to have an engine, a big giant engine, and they have to want to do things. I'll give you a great example of that. I do everything with stories and examples. Maybe you hate that. I'm sorry.
No, it works perfectly for me.
If not, I will take my dog for a walk across the country, and we could do that podcast because I know it's big for you. Stella would love it too because she loves to spend time with me. My writing partner, Dean Laurie, I think, the guy is known for Arrested Development, Major Pain. He's written several series of books that have been all hits. Some of them have been bought up by the likes of Sony Pictures, you name it. Dean's a big wig. And Dean always gets a big kick out of this. He'll be at dinner with, friends of his wife or someone from school or whatever, and they know that he's a big deal in Hollywood. They know he's a big book writer. And these people inevitably say, hey, Dean, listen, I have a great idea for a show. I'll give you the idea, and then you go do the show, write the show, do everything, and then you can give me half of it. Well, really now, you want to only give this guy an idea, do nothing else, have this guy go and write the show, send the show around, push the show, sell the show, and then create the show, and for that, you'll give him 50% of your idea. Well, that's very nice of you. Thank you very much. Dean can think of his own ideas. Mm-hmm. Now, when Dean came to me, because we were both, floundering around trying to figure out what to do, and he said, I have an idea for a book. And I was like, Dean, I don't want to write the, how to get ripped abs in 10 minutes book. He goes, no, it's a different idea. And he says, I want you to go off this weekend and read Kitchen Confidential, which is Anthony Bourdain's book. He goes, you guys remind me of each other, So I read the book. We were having that drink on Friday night. I read the book on Saturday. I called him on Sunday and said, I read the book. I know exactly what I have to do. He says, okay. And this is the crux of the story, Srini. He said, okay, I want you to start writing notes. And I said, how many notes? He said, just start writing, write them into Word. And every time you have a big chunk of notes, send them to me. About 4 months later, now think about this. From the time I read Anthony Bourdain's book, he told me to start writing notes. I kept writing notes. I kept sending him notes. 4 months later, he called me one day. He says, last night I was bored and I started organizing all of your notes. You've literally written over 40,000 words in notes. Most books are not that long anymore. 40,000 words in notes. I said, so what do you want to do? He says, why don't you come over? We'll start, putting these notes together and fleshing them out and see if we have a book. The key to the story I'm telling you is most people would say, hey, Vinny, go write some notes. And they would go, maybe I'll get to it next week or next month or next year. I even write that in the book. Everybody I know says at sometimes, and the same people, they will say at some point in their life, I think I'll write a book. Yet they never get to it. And the only thing you need to write a book is pencil and paper. You don't need anything else. Or they'll say, one day I'll run a marathon. Yet most people never run a marathon. Everybody's going to get to it one day. The difference is people that have a big motor, a big engine, something that they want to have push them. They will, when Dean said, sit down and start writing notes, Vinnie sat down. I just spoke about myself in the third person. I'm so sorry. But that guy sat down and started writing notes. And I didn't stop writing notes until I had almost a complete book in notes. And by the way, we used every one of those notes in the 70,000+ word book that we wrote. Mm-hmm. That's the difference.
It's just showing up, right? Showing up and doing the work.
Everybody wants to be a Kardashian, but as I always explain to people, the Kardashians work hard at being Kardashians.
Yeah. Believe it or not, conversation that we have actually had on the air. They're really entrepreneurial people.
Oh, listen, I'll tell you, because I live about 5 feet from where they started out over in Hidden Hills. Mm-hmm. And Bruce Jenner was broke. He and his wife were broke. They were going to lose their house in Hidden Hills. I work in Hidden Hills. That's where all the celebrities are. And that was the word on the street. They were out of money. And then their daughter, or his stepdaughter and her daughter, had a sex video with a rapper taking it up the bum. And, oh my God, what else could be worse? This is Kardashian's kid, the lawyer from, the OJ trial, and she's got a sex video. Oh my God, this is horrible. These people took lemons and definitely made lemonade, and they have not stopped yet.
Yeah.
So don't come around and say, oh, the Kardashians just got lucky. No, they took a bad situation. They turned it around. And by the way, those girls opened dress shops. And by the way, I'm not friends of theirs. Mm-hmm. I think what they do is vulgar, to be honest with you. But I have to applaud them for doing it. Yeah. I have to applaud them. They have no talent whatsoever other than hard work. I mean, think about it. Back in the day of Marilyn Monroe, you had to be able to sing, dance, and act.
Right.
Or at least do all three badly.
Uh-huh.
Today, all you have to do is be a Kardashian. All you have to do is nothing. Yet they do nothing better than anyone else, and they can succeed at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff there. So, I want to ask you actually about sort of the collaborative process between you and your co-writer. I mean, collaboration is always an interesting thing for creatives, because I think that who you collaborate with, really, it's never as simple. I think that the curse of many creatives is they tend to be drawn to people just like them. And so they don't have somebody who compensates for their weaknesses. And I'd love for you to expand on the creative process behind, one, how it worked with you guys, and what your advice is for other people who are looking for creative collaborators.
Wow. Unfortunately, you just answered it in your question. People were wondering how Dean and I were able to write in my voice. The reason we're able to write in my voice is we're kind of the same guy. We're both Italians from the South. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean the Southland, I mean the South. And we can start and finish each other's, sentences. And that's kind of an odd thing. I think that's why we like each other. We see ourselves in the other person. So it wasn't a big stretch for us. But the division of labor was, we sat in that room literally for 3 hours a day, sometimes 6 days a week, and sometimes we'd go 4 hours. And we would just sit there and he would take a note and he would say, look, you wrote this note down. What did you mean by this? And we would just sit there and flesh it out. And, all the Vinniisms came out of that. People love the Vinniisms in the book. I have all these kind of Yogi Berra type things I use with my clients, and they're all in the book. Uh-huh. But we just ended up, we had no idea. We can't wait to write another book together. Dean is almost done with this year's version of The Crazy Ones, and he's got another show he's doing, I think, for HBO, but we're waiting for him to have a break so we can start writing again. Mm-hmm. Because we just love hanging out with each other, So I know that's kind of an answer that you didn't want to hear. The one thing is, on day one, I walked in with the Louisville Slugger. I walked in with a baseball bat. And every day while we were writing, I had that bat between my knees while I was writing. And every day, Dean would ask me and when I would leave his office, I would put the bat in the corner. And then I would pick up the bat the next time I would come in, put it between my knees, and we would start working. And sometimes I would get angry doing the writing, and I would start banging the bat on those wooden floors that I'm sure he paid a ton of money for. And he never once asked me about the bat. Only one time when I was tapping the bat on his computer screen, he goes, stop hitting my computer screen with that bat. And on the last day of writing, when we literally wrote the words, the end, when we put the paintbrush down, he turned to me when I was putting the bat in the corner of his office, and he said, I got a question. Why did you have that bat? What was that? And I said, oh, you can have it now. I'm going to just leave it here. Just you can have, your kids want to use it, go play with it. It's a brand new bat. You can do whatever you want. And he says, but why did you have it? And before I answered the question, I said to him, why are you asking me now? And he said, because I was very worried that you might hit me with it the way De Niro did in, one of those movies. I can't remember which one it was. And I said, the reason I had the bat, Dean, is because I needed to remind myself to keep my eye on the ball. So the bat was a symbol that I used for 6 or 8 months or whatever it took us to write the book. It was to keep my eye on the ball.
Interesting. Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's, you're right. It wasn't the answer I was expecting. And, usually I find collaboration is complicated, right? I don't, the reason I didn't, I think that there's no dead set answer. I mean, maybe you can find somebody who's similar to you and make it work. Clearly you did. I think that there's something to be said for, like you have to be able to get along if you're going to collaborate. And I think, the thing I see is two people who had a common vision. Like the vision is the same, and how it happens. What people contribute, I think could be very different. Like, my business partner and I bring two very different things to the table. I don't think that he would be giving the kind of interviews that I do behind the mic.
Yeah, no, and Dean wouldn't either. Like if, I doubt that Dean could do a podcast. Then again, he might do a better podcast than me. Mm-hmm. He's been on my show several times, and people love when he comes on. He's we get bigger numbers when Dean is on than when he's not.
Right.
But I don't know if Dean would be able to interview people. I don't know. And I know for certain that I could not go over to CBS right now and run a show. But at some point there are commonalities, and those are things that you have to bring out with the people. You have to find them.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Vinny, we're getting close to about the end of our hour here. I want to ask you a question that I've asked a lot of people, but I think that your perspective on it should be interesting. You've seen sort of every level of celebrity. You mentioned working with D-list celebrities, and I'm guessing you've worked all the way with sort of A-list celebrities. In a lot of ways, when you look at creative careers, what celebrities do is kind of the pinnacle of a creative career. Like that's the ultimate level of success. And when I look at the internet, I think that the internet is democratizing our ability to create like never before, but it's also like a developing country where there are sort of, you have your A-list superstars and you have the D-list. And I guess really, I'm very curious, what you've learned from looking at the people that you've worked with, the people that you've trained, in terms of what causes success at that level and what allows them to sustain it so that they have a legacy, not just sort of one-hit wonders.
Well, it's funny. I really think that a lot of one-hit wonders could have gone on to do really well. For whatever reason, they were, in my opinion, afraid of the success and didn't know how to keep it going. You can say that with music a lot. I work with a lot of musicians who have done really well. But in other cases, you'll see people. I was talking about this girl the other day on my show, Edie Brickell, who had one hit with the New Bohemians, and then she just went and married Paul Simon, and you never heard from Edie Brickell again. Maybe she was just afraid of success. Who knows? And then other people who you think are not really that talented go on to do great things. And we could take Howie Mandel as an example. That guy was on a TV series back in the 70s. He could have gone away after that, but he went back on the road. He kept doing comedy. And then he did this show and he did that show. And then he kind of went away again and came back with the show with the suitcases, Deal or No Deal. And his career was sparked again. And now he's on whatever that show is where you get to, talk to people about talent. What's that show called? America's Got Talent? Is that
I think so, yeah. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of reality TV.
I don't either. He's my buddy, and I couldn't tell you what show he's on. But, he just finds ways to reinvent who Howie Mandel is. And, that's just, that's where the success is. Mm-hmm. He still goes on the road. He still does comedy. Think about it. The guy he's rich. He's very wealthy. He doesn't have to go work a casino, but guess what? He gets on a plane and he goes work a casino because that's what he does. I think he would go crazy otherwise. Mm-hmm. That's just my opinion. I think, well, he is kind of crazy, but I think he would literally go nuts if he didn't have that creative outlet to walk on stage and get a little nervous night after night. And I can say that about most celebrities I work with. Some of them don't need the money anymore, yet they can't stop doing it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that to me, that effectively is what happens when the journey itself becomes the reward. Like, it's no longer about the external accolades, but getting to do the work that you love to do is that rewarding.
That's true, because I could literally, I could see in the next, few months, this internet thing is working out really well for me. Selling books, doing a podcast that's monetized itself, and this whole thing. I could see where if I wanted to do this full time, I can do this and never train another person ever. Yet, I'm going to be up at 4:15 eating breakfast because it's not only what I know, it's what I love to do. I love to be in front of people. I love to be in front of people, helping them, making them feel good, doing what I do. Mm-hmm. And that's just what I'm going to do.
Awesome. Well, I think that makes a perfect way to sum up our conversation. Vinny, like I said, I think that, you're definitely one of our more unusual guests for the Unmistakable Creative, but that's also what intrigued me so much about your story when I heard about it. So I can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us and share some of your insights with our listeners.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. And for those of you guys listening, we'll wrap the show with that.
Thanks for listening in on another candid conversation at the Unmistakable Creative. Embrace your inner misfit. Express your creative voice. And remember, the goal isn't to live forever, but to create something that will.